It's March 1st, 2020. I'm living in Vancouver and I'm 8 months pregnant. My landlord calls me and tells me that she's so sorry, but she has to sell our house. It's difficult to imagine a more vulnerable time in one's life to be rendered homeless. Indigenous people make up roughly 5% of the entire Canadian population, yet depending on which city you look at, between 15 and 95% of those experiencing homelessness identify as Indigenous. This gross overrepresentation is the result of ongoing and historic colonialism and racism. My research focuses on the growing number of urban Indigenous people and their disproportionate need for housing. Community housing is a form of subsidized housing that is either owned and operated by nonprofit societies and cooperatives, or housing that is owned by the government. In addition to roof over heads, Indigenous-led community housing providers also provide culturally appropriate wraparound supports, such as on-site ceremony and healing, community-based care for children leaving the foster care system, and an alternative to this nuclear single-family home. These housing providers have decades of knowledge and experience, but they're often stretched thin, chasing their tails in 3 or 5 or 10-year granting cycles that don't provide the funding needed to operate sustainably. I will use participatory action research methods, which uses the community itself as a unit of analysis. This approach forges research alliances with community members to explore and develop solutions to local problems. My project will present Indigenous-led community housing providers with a space to collaborate with one another, identify common barriers, and potential courses of action. I incorporate a decolonial perspective into my research methods, which means the research is conducted with, not on, communities. It seeks to disrupt knowledge hierarchies inherent in the participant-researcher relationship and validates the expertise of lived experience. It seeks to be accountable to these relationships and disbelieves the permanence of the settler colonial nation state, which undermines and dispossesses Indigenous peoples of their lands. I myself am Métis, and though my own relationship with my family is problematic, when it hits the fan, I know that I can call upon them for help. What if this wasn't the case back in March 2020? Where would my daughter and I be now? Would we be living in a shelter? Would she be awarded the state? It's so easy to imagine it all going differently, the way it does for so many Indigenous people in a system that was designed to keep us down and out. In an era of supposed reconciliation, we need action. To make things right, we need to bring Indigenous people home.